work on some things here. I've got the
Oh, Christ, again?
Discord
God damn it.
chat working. I'm listening to Hyper RPG's Discord.
Really?
Subscriber only Discord, so
Really?
I'm also going to be working on,
I don't know if he's yelling at me.
and so as we get some cross chatter, it'll be great. So I'm going to be working on some horror themed maps and listening to this. Plus I've got some copyright free sounds happening in the back. So give me just a second to get rid of this. Awesome. Okay. So I was working on this before, and then I did a little bit of work off of the stream, so to speak. Got a little bit of lag here, but that's okay.
Damn it, Joe. And that would be the game.
Yeah, I feel so bad, Zach, when you think about Christmas time, because you'd be hitting for like 450 on me. If you would have thought about, yeah, if you would have thought of like putting up the plate between build up your crit by a flat part piston by a blast harness. So once you build up your crit, you replace your flat part piston by a blast harness. It's exactly the same thing. You hit for 500 for this. Bone days. Alright, cool, whatever. Good game.
Oh, it's exactly midnight.
Cool, I'm out. Bye.
Zach, you played a good game.
Hey, Joe,
he was a bullying guy.
Like even though we were on the opposite team.
That's surprising one thing, you know.
Well, the problem is that I think my video starts dying, and well, it's on my Christmas list to get a brand new one. So I guess I'm gonna spend maybe 200 bucks on a new one.
I think it's just Paragon.
So anybody that's watching and is listening to this, like, what the hell's going on? I'm listening to Hyper RPG. As it says in the chat there, I was hosting them earlier. And I have decided to work.
Yeah.
I decided to work on something.
You guys have a good night. Yeah, you have a good night.
And listen to them at the same time.
I had fun too. Yeah.
I'm so mad I only had 3 cards that entire game.
And Ronnie, so if you guys want to talk, feel free.
So the skin I have is the default Sparrow. So I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, look at you, like wiping in one hair.
Okay, now I actually have cards on my deck.
That sounds good.
The thing is, I was still like 3 shovings in.
Oh yeah, we didn't build any wars in this deck. Like I said, it was like a pure glass cannon build. Like, you know, it was literally it was designed. It's mostly. Yeah.
And once again, I'm sorry guys for not helping you. You know, trying to help you out, trying to get in and shit. So.
I don't really want to. Okay, I actually only have 4. So I have 6 cards.
I wouldn't too bad. I think know it was
Besides, Zach needs to be smacked sometimes.
What's really funny is because I've been editing this, it should have a little asterisk next to the name, showing that I've changed things, altered it from the original
man,
state.
you guys are watching Bronze, who was what you do for roller coasters.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I was surprised though I got to 16 points that fast.
Yeah, I wish I had 60 points worth of cards.
I didn't. The funny part is the way my decks are built. I just don't have any way to use all 60 points. I was like 4 points short.
Alright guys, good night.
Good night,
Good
Tiger.
Love you. Hey, Catherine.
And Joe likes missiles to the face.
You got some that?
Yeah, I honestly just, at some point I realized
Oh, awesome.
Is Bronze trying to make people sick?
I don't know what she's trying to do.
She's doing with the new roller coaster type movement.
Yeah, but I missed.
She's played it before.
Yeah, I remember her first one. She did it at Castle. Like, she had to roll it
So
out.
even though they're talking, and I'm talking over
Yeah,
top of them.
she's-
So I'm setting this map up for
She
3D.
is still Switch partners.
And so, since we've got the top view, I need then the side view from both angles, and I just need to think about
Yeah, I know.
what is important to put on those side views.
As for me, I'm gonna go and open my machine up and throw. Why is she doing this? I multiply the something to do with NVIDIA. Guarantee it's something to do with NVIDIA.
Whenever anything goes wrong with the computer with Super 80 spyware, I run everything great. So.
No, I have set it I have it set to a time schedule, so it doesn't like once or twice for various programs.
The thing is, Super 80 spyware finds malware and stuff like that. The malware likes doesn't catch or virus. And it's free versions. But sometimes when I've had a program kicking me constantly and I ran Super 80 spyware, etc., my program stopped. So I doubt that's your issue. You're saying that what happened.
Yeah, it's been working just fine until this game just somehow is having issues. So I'm just gonna go in and figure out what the hell's going on. I mean, I got a 6-core processor. I have like 16 gigs of RAM and all that fun stuff.
We might go one more over.
You got 16 gigs, so it's still need left with any other 16 and max it up to 32.
Yeah, I know that. For me, I just want something that I can, just play games normally and stream. So.
I've got 2 terabyte drive. I've only got 1.5 per year.
Put that there first.
Yeah, I have 2 tera on my machine, and then I have a solid state. I got 2 solid state drives.
Shift that over one more.
One's like related to my artwork, the other one is just for old games and stuff that I still have on.
Like that. Let's save it. While saving and streaming and discording, sometimes it has a habit of doing things like this, but that's okay. So, as you can probably see on the screen,
Well, I better go and figure out what's going on.
Alrighty.
Good luck.
Because,
good night, Lady K. Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
yeah, it's good
Good
to
night,
hear
Kate.
you.
I'm gonna head out as well.
Later.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. here. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. here.
Later, folks.
Insomniac, but I think I'm got to close tonight. I only got an hour and a half last night, so. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
So, it sounds like pretty much everybody's logging off over there. But, if any of them want to come over here and hang out, that's fine. If not, no big deal.
Yeah, this is the first time I've logged in since Tuesday, since they patched. And I was looking at all the cards. And, yeah, a lot of them do exactly the same thing as the energy or physical counterpart did, but not well.
That's going to be
Like
red.
the tune barrier gives less armor than tempered plate
Okay.
for the same card cost.
But I'd like to see some decent 3 ability cards.
Let's begin Order's got one.
Well, Fury's got one.
Uh,
Oh, burn bud powder. And that's actually my huge 6-point card at the beginning of the game.
low level 6-point card. Discard and then chop it back.
Yeah, I replace it, unfortunately, with a Rowan Wand with a couple cards because I need speed.
Okay, that's what it is. I missed the rest. Tempered plate does basic attack armor, tune barrier, visibility armor.
Yeah.
But Chronovore with a 10% cooldown reduction. It's awesome.
I noticed some cards still give cooldown reduction.
Yeah, but only as a bonus. And it's a 5-point card.
Okay, we're going to do two things.
And look,
We're going to save this. We're going to close the window and restart it. And I may, well, restart the stream. I don't want to have to do that, though.
mind flow. It also gives mana.
So, for a moment here, you might see my background, which is going to be some artwork by Jeremiah Ford that I was using and will use and am using and plan to use. Maybe it won't show up. Maybe it'll just be my...
You get 3 times your mana regen, and when you pick up a river buff, you get 35 mana regen.
Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, it won't show it. Oh, well. That's alright.
So yeah, 3 times that, plus whatever the bonus is.
And only a 15-second cooldown.
Not
Hey, I
a
actually have one of
problem.
those cards.
What was that last card?
Cast command.
3-point?
6. With health and mana. Pretty general.
Oh.
So I definitely have coffee. Yay, coffee.
Price the river buffs.
And
So,
if anybody wants to join in and chit chat, we can do so on the Hyper RPG Discord, or we can do so on my own Discord. We've got the program. So I've also got an arena that I was working on, which is sort of almost completed. Pretty close. But we're going to work on the horror maps, because that's what we were working on. Let's hope that everything actually saved properly, because that could be kind of fun if it didn't. I did have it open for a good long while, so.
Good, thanks.
Okie dokie. So,
Kind of games that you think.
Just doing testing decks, just more fun stuff. Still trying to figure
Sounds
out.
good.
Did anybody else want in? Cool.
I just targets.
Is that omens?
yeah, so I already know what I want to do here.
I still want to put the eggs. Oh, really? Did you get that mess? Anybody else want to try some of the mess? See if he gets
Yeah, just simple.
I click.
Yeah, I already know what I want to do here.
If you go up to the profile button on the top right, you should have the invitations waiting.
Okay.
I can't feel ready because this window's blocking it. This is stupid. Okay, yeah, there you go. I will say I was very surprised at the win that game.
You say this after we won a match with 3 inhibitors down.
We were one person down the entire game.
Does the game have anything like that goes in place when you're in the single player? Or some other modes or
Unfortunately.
because in some modes like, it's actually not that bad if you're with that player who you want to do things.
Find a code.
Good thing. You playing that? So that's good offline. Or capture.
Oh, that's what I was gonna do.
I don't know. I think I might just.
You can play this in a while, haven't you, now?
It's been a bit.
It takes years, so just
Yeah, I'm just gonna disconnect. Have a wonderful night, my thumper friends. And I'll just have my regular everyday Discord open. And if anybody wants to join me, great. And if not, whatever's cool, I will just continue working on things. So I set the top down view. It's basically everything there is prepped. So this is prepared for. You could use it just as it is. This is just a vector artwork map set on a square grid map, etc. And it has multiple levels to it that I did on purpose because I wanted something that would be multi-tiered and something that could be done in 3D using Blender, which I will eventually get around to on this channel, hopefully. And so now that I have those things placed, I'm going to lock this. Press Control 2 to lock this when you're using Illustrator. And I'm going to lock this one. And then that way, when I select, I won't accidentally select the grid. Because I don't need to move the grid, I mostly need to move those things. And right now, I have the very back layer selected. But I actually need it to be at the front. And I'm going to bring it down to, let's see, we're going to do 2 plus 1. We're going to bring it down to the 4th grid line-ish, because it's not absolutely necessary to be at a grid line. And actually we can move that to the back, because the other things are actually going to be sitting in such a position where that's not going to be that big of a deal. So, we'll go back one more. So, there is a way in which I have to think about this a little bit backwards. But, more importantly, I should grab these anchor points. Because I want to recreate those. also going to zoom in a little more. Because I really like those anchor points the way they are. The depth that they are from that point. The only thing is I want to change those curved lines that are at the top to not be like that. Although, boy, let me think about it. Haha, I knocked over the coffee cup, as per usual, but luckily, I have the top closed. Win! Okay. So, because I know that I want to take this exact same curve that's down here on the bottom and recreate it so that it flows upward to the opposite direction, ending at the line up there. And so see, that's the other thing with trying to select just the anchor points. There's several problems that pop up with it. So let's do this. So, I'm only breathing heavily because part of me wishes that I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this and didn't have to think about it at all. But I do not. Okay, so that right there is the curve. And I want to pull this curve up over here so that this pit is clearly sloped and difficult to get into and out of. When I say difficult to get into and out of, I'm specifically thinking of the theme or the scene in Alien where they find the xenomorph egg, facehugger eggs down in the pit, because that's what the inspiration for this map was. So let's do. And so you can watch how my thoughts work here. And let's also throw both of them. Oh, see, that's. Let's throw both of them the opposite direction. Okay. Something a little bit like that. And so there are a few different ways to fix this. it because it's got a... See, that's one of the problems with this method of creating things. One of the problems is that occasionally you have those guides line right up, even though you don't actually want them to. And sometimes that interferes with your ability to place items, objects. Okay. So the other thing about this is now that we have that curve set like that, and also yeah, now that we have that curve set just a little bit higher like that, now we know exactly where our floor is going to be for that next level up. Boy, oh boy, this is a little bit frustrating that I have to go down this far to get to what I want. Alright, I'm getting frustrated because this is turning out to be way more work just to get a couple of curves than I had hoped. But that's what happens sometimes when you're designing things and things aren't perfectly lined up. at the very least, yeah, because it's all one big object. That's kind of half the problem, is that it's like, if I can connect these 2 points and get the other ones out of there, it would be quite wonderful. Okay. Think about it. Okay. Sort of like that. Ish. So this is not how I prefer to do this, but whatever. I just want to get it. I want to get it working so I can get focused on other parts. Okay. Okay, so this is going to line up a little easier. Okay, so the reason I did that, aside from frustrating myself, is because that will now be my the thing that I'm making. It's late. That's why this is an insomnia stream. I sort of feel like this one. Oh. Yeah, I sort of feel like this one here is in the way. And I can always connect them. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to just go backwards and get rid of that whole set of actions, if possible. Possible. Let's see. Oh, even if I just do it right there. And I feel better about that already. So, okay. So now what that does is I now have a shape that's going to be the very bottom pit of this whole thing. That will actually then be this dark black color at the very back. And from that, I will then develop a second tier. That's going to be the outer edge of this, which is where the curvature is going to go up. It'll go right up under that floor, and the floor lip will end right there. So it'll be sort of out and then come in and then slope down into the bottom of that. And then above that will be several tiers of floors. So let's see, along with the pit at the very bottom, wherever that line is, where that floor finally comes into play, that will be the sort of, let me think. So we're going to do the pit, the subflooring, which is curved, the flooring, and then above that it will come back out to be an even wider, because those are actually a little bit further back than the cage fence zone, that also have metal graded floors, and there will be at least one, probably two of those. And then what I was thinking is, because those zones, you want those to be really tall, I'm thinking 20 or 25 feet per floor. So the pit and the subflooring goes to the very first level floor. And then above, so when I say subflooring, technically I'm referring to below that darker gray. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's below that one. So the curvature is gonna pull those. It's gonna pull the pit down on the very bottom in just a little bit, but not far. And this whole thing is going to be very H.R. Giger inspired. So that's what when we think of what kind of textures are going to go on those areas, you already know. So let me think about how I want to do this. So if we know that the subflooring heck with it, let's just make the curvature go all the way back to the outer zone, and then the flooring can go extend outward a little bit, and then because there's going to be another curved space, so to speak, another curved shape, I should say. Oh, you know what? Let's move this down a little bit so we can make sure that I don't mess it all up. Okay. So this. Yeah, I like that. So 1, 2, 3. And now that is about as close as I can get to symmetrical. Not really sold on that curve. because one of them is a... Okay. That's fine. One of them is not actually a curve. Because when you add a new point on there, and you know what? The other thing is, you can get rid of one of these. Yeah, I'm a little more happy with that. Kind of. Sort of. Right. Right. We need to get rid of that one. That one. Change this. And this to this. And this is we can't get. Whoop. Okay, and so the reason that we just did that is because there is, in a sense, going to be some overlap. It'll actually be the opposite way that this is. Hang on. We'll just do it like this. I was gonna say that's. I feel like that was just a little too far. So let's do that. Okay. So that way there's just a little bit of variation. Oops. And just one more little bit. We're going to align those. So I think what I'm going to do yeah, that's good. I like that. That's not too terrible. So, let's save this. Technically, that's a horrible spot to do that, but when I say a horrible spot, I mean the view on my viewport, because I want as much of it to be visible as possible when I save it, so that whenever it comes up to this screen, that it's whatever is most relevant for what I'm working on. Ugh. The other thing that I'm going to do before I move on to the next map out of these 5 maps is I'm going to split this into separate Illustrator files, just because it's going to be a lot easier to work on it like that than to try and keep adding more and more things to its one Illustrator file. Oh, excuse me. Especially because every time I add more content like this to make it set up properly for 3D layout kind of stuff, is it adds a lot more geometry in there for it to think about when it's trying to split everything up. And so, in general, it's a good idea to leave that stuff out of there if possible. But since we're actually setting it up for those things, we want that extra geometry. So we're gonna, it's just easier to split it into separate documents and then put them back together at some point to make new stuff. So, didn't really get much accomplished there, but that's okay. The important thing was trying to get those shapes for the curvature, and in fact I'm going to cut those out of there. And I'm also going to apply a stroke pure black. Technically I could go smaller than 1 point, but yeah, I'll leave it like that. And so, oh, the other thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to group these, because I want that to be one grouped object until I get it completely placed where I need it to be. And so, there are things that happen. Also, this is the first time I've streamed since moving into a new zone. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, which is kind of exciting when you consider that I, at one point, set an RPG in the city of Tacoma that we renamed Suquamish after the Native American name for a section of this region of the zone of the things. And so, yeah, things have been okay. Things have worked out pretty well, and hopefully I can keep everything rolling. I've been working on something for Hyper RPG, which is really fun and exciting, and I can't talk about it. And so that's the thing. That's what happens. And anybody who was or is going to watch that is going to be taking this book seriously. That's really all you have to say about it? Yes. It's all true. It's all true. So, in all reality, I wanted to be streaming stuff way before this, but things have just been so hectic. But I do have plans on continuing lots of things. This in particular, I want to take each one of these maps and just lay it out for preparation for 3D, and then if I don't do all of them in 3D, that's not really a problem. But for sure, I would like to do this, the spaceship cargo hold, and the dreamscape, the one over here, in 3D. This one over here on the zone, on the side over here on the left. Technically I could do any of these in 3D and they would all have something to offer in terms of laying stuff out and showing the process for all of that. There's benefits to doing any of these, but those ones I'm going to prioritize as as top. This one and this one. Mostly because I have a really good idea of what I want out of them. The other thing I might do is, because this alien planet landscape was sort of inspired by watching No Man's Sky, watching people play No Man's Sky. I think I may well lay that out as something to be something. Wow. See, that's the problem with the insomnia. Our stream is that it's not always here. Just kind of thinking out loud, saying whatever pops into my head. Let's see if we have anybody else still over here. Yeah, we do have a couple of people still hanging out. Over on the Hyper RPG Discord. If you become a subscriber on Hyper RPG, you get access to their Discord. I think it's a good thing. I think it's worthwhile. And so therefore I'm sort of advertising that. So the other thing that's on my mind is I would like to do more 3D asset creation stuff. I could do it here on my own stream. Like, I could. I mean, I really could. It could just be as simple as, you know, wow, he's working on something. Oh, now he's working on something in 3D. I mean, it could just be that simple. It's not complicated. But it's not as much fun that way. And that's the thing, is I'd like to do something that's really fun for people to watch. And so I was thinking of an idea of doing a show that's all about using Blender, just because it's free and open source, and creating 3D assets in a very creative, fun kind of way, interactive, preferably with more than one person hosting the show. Like, I would, honestly, I'm just gonna say, I would love to get Viking Lass and Sour Fruit Junkie staff from Hyper RPG to co-host this show and have us do asset creation and do it in a really fun, upbeat, competitive-ish kind of way, where we like hand off 3D created assets to one another, you know, like maybe on like a timer, and so that it's kind of fun and upbeat and making things really quickly without thinking about it too much, just doing it and having fun doing it. And so that was my thought. I tried to sell that, but you know, it can be difficult to convince people of the applicability of things. And so if you would like to see me do that, you shouldn't let me know, because I already know that that would be cool. But you should definitely let Hyper RPG know that, hey, Zeta Raven wants to make some Blender stuff in 3D, and maybe, you know, you guys could like do that as like a show, because I love Full Tilt that they do with VR stuff. That was actually what got me hooked on it in the first place and got me thinking about this whole live streaming bonanza. And also, I mean, like I said, I can just do it here on this stream, but sitting here doing something, working on it just to do that, and especially if I don't have an automatic, you know, hey, I'm doing this, and then boom, people show up to chit chat. You know, if you don't have the perfect setup, it can be difficult to try and make something that people really actually do want to see. So, if you would like to see that, that's how you should recommend it. Not to me, but to them. I have already said my piece, and to them, so at this point it's just a matter of they need to see a demand for it. So, demand. Please demand. It would be lovely, I think. So, this is what's going to happen now. Even though I don't actually want to delete anything. Actually, the more I think about this, the maybe it's not the most idea. Let me think. So, mostly it's just the reference layers that are locked, along with my grids that I purposefully locked. Here and here. And if that's true, then, okay. So hopefully, let's see what happens when I just press Control A, which is select all the everything of the all. So that's how that works. Okay, so we're gonna do a few things. I'm gonna save it. Heck with it. We're gonna save it just as is. Doesn't matter. And that will be the main document that I start from if I ever have to fall back to it. Or if I ever mess things up where I have to fall back to an older document, this will be the one. Even though I didn't want to actually add all that stuff to it in this form. And so I will split it into different documents by deleting all that extra stuff that wouldn't be just in the spaceship one, and then renaming it and resaving it. Save as instead of just Control S, it's Control Shift S to save as. In other words, you save it as a new file. That's what I'm thinking I'll do. So that I can split that and then work on all those other ones separately. Yeah, I mean, as silly as it seems, I feel like that's probably the best bet in general. Why? Because it's late and I'm tired and I'm just thinking out loud. I also got some photo references for the alien planet. And I say photo references. When I say photo references for Alien Planet, what I'm actually talking about is screenshots from the game No Man's Sky. And then some other images for image references for my ephemeral mindscape. I always say ethereal, but it's ephemeral mindscape. The idea is it's supposed to be very pretty and peaceful and soothing in a sense, but anything that is so dreamlike could quickly become a nightmare, and thus this is the theme of the Horror Adventures maps. So yeah, and then I've got my Vampire Theater Hall. I've been thinking about how I was going to set up the seating booths in that zone. How wide they would be. I think I've decided with 15 feet, 3 squares. Yeah. Yep, that's what they're going to be. They'll be 15 feet wide booths that you could sit in and be in and be all intimate and comfy with some lovely vampires, because it's a vampire theater hall. And then when the doors get locked and everybody's locked inside and it's feeding time, everyone's all nice and comfy cozy and ready to go. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I am going to set all of these up so that they can be made into 3D environments, 3D scenes. Whether or not I use those scenes to then recreate the map in a raster image, that I'm not so sure. I'm not certain how I want to do that. But I will set all of these up to do that as a, in order to show this is how you take a 2D image concept and run it through the process to give yourself a 3D image concept. I say 3D image, in this case, it could be anything 3D. I mean, we are living in the era of virtual reality, and so really by setting this up for 3D, you're setting this up to be an experience, not just, you know, an image, not just a static thing, but possibly a movie, possibly a virtual environment to experience digitally. So what I normally do, and what will be my default method of polishing these up once I get the vector shapes laid out in Adobe Illustrator, I then export that with the proper layers of everything. I export that as a PSD, a Photoshop file. And then using Photoshop, I can go in and paint the textures to be exactly the way I want them to look. And that's a way that I can get a finished map that's set up for the grid and everything else, but that it actually looks really nice. And I can add shadows and all the rest of it, so it looks like a really nice fancy map. The other option, the alternative, would be to set it up like this and then bring it into Blender and create the environment. But that also requires that you set up the lighting and a specific camera perspective, and maybe even like a fly-through in order to show the whole thing. And even if you were to create a top-down map view, you would still need to really focus on the lighting, and making sure that when you're looking downward into this environment that you're seeing something that's at least half decently realistic. I'm just blabbering now. This is sit with Will and listen to him blabber while looking at the maps that he's working on. That's what this show is now. That's the purpose of this show. It's what it's always been the whole time. Yeah, so if anybody was watching Hyper RPG earlier, crazy great show. Heck with it, we're gonna go back to the rambling. We're gonna go back to the rambling part. In fact, I can put the workspace up on this screen. Put it right over here. Ha 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 ha! Put it right over in that zone. We're gonna do that. We're gonna add it. We're gonna put it back in there. Technically, it's called Monitor 1 workspace. This is so totally not Monitor 1. Ooh, see? There you go. See, that's what you get. That's what you get when you get things that are fun, is they just come in and right there on the middle of the view. Like, haha. You wanted to see things. Well, guess what? Now you've seen way too much. So there. Now the map is in view, so you can actually still see it. So good. So this is the part of the program where I just sit here and not worry about whether or not I'm working on it or if I'm doing anything at all. Because that's not the purpose of this part. Because, see how it says Insomnia up there? It says that because it's late and I'm tired. And sometimes when I'm tired, I don't want to have to work on everything all the time. But I do want to show you what I'm working on, because that is kind of part of the fun of this. I've shown this to several people now, to show them like how I work on things and how I what I've done to put these ideas together. You know what? Heck with it. We're gonna try something. We're gonna do something else. We're just gonna do it, because why not? So this is the here. All right, so this is our arena. Oh, crap! I don't know what I did there, but I hope I didn't mess up. Okie dokie. So this is the Dream Arena. Let me get the layers out of the way here. So, yeah, so this is an arena. It is definitely a Coliseum style arena that is loosely based, not loosely, I mean, it's the exact same shape as the flip map by Paizo. Yeah, it is. It's literally the same map. I just took their map and said, okay, it's this shape. I removed the pillars from the arena sands because I'll actually create those, things that you can place on the map. I'll create those as side items that you can then place yourself if you would like those things on the map. And as you can see here in what it appears to be in the stands, is also the sort of stuff that you would see coming up the ramp, up the corridors. And so this would be armor and protective gear. And then past that, you'd get your weaponry and offensive gear. And then you'd prepare yourself for the arena battle. And then you would enter onto the arena field. Same thing, opposite side, same exact setup, same exact layout. And what that is and why there are some stairwells at intervals along all of that is because you're traveling up a ramp or up a stairwell from below the arena up onto the arena sands above. And that's what this other thing over here is, which is the below ground portion of the Dream Arena. And so I say Dream Arena because, yes, you can use this as a normal arena, which is what it's based off to begin with, was just a regular arena flip map. You could just use it like that. Or you could use it within the context of the Dream Arena, or from Right Publishing, the Coliseum Morpheon, which I have sort of readapted a little bit. It's basically the same setting. It's the Dimension of Dreams. It's essentially the same setting. And so, same kind of thing here. The zones that are outlined with a faint red line are the ones that are not completed. Because there's still some other things that I want to throw in there, little details. Plus, there's no doors on any of this. Yeah, there's no doors anywhere on any of this. And so that's going to be the last little bit that I throw down there. And these maps do line up to one another so that the two blue circles and the two red circles they coincide with one another on both floors, and those are teleportation circles for the sake of teleporting very powerful and dangerous creatures up into the arena without necessarily preparing them like you would with your normal humanoid gladiators. And yeah, and so I finished these to this point a very long time ago, and had hoped to use them in a product. I still plan to use them in a product, possibly also just releasing them for free, because that's kind of how I do things. And I'm sure there's a point. I mean, everyone has a point sometimes, right? I only did that so that I could resave it. Because I'm weird. I'm totally weird and OCD about things like this. So, okay, so that's my map for the arenas. The Dream Arena. So it's just the one arena and the underneath. And then the one arena can also be used to represent larger arenas by simply changing the scale of the grid squares from a 5-foot square to, say, a 30-foot or a 60-foot square, which then makes the Coliseum quite grand. And so such is the nature of the Dream Arena Coliseums. So yeah, it's late out here in Washington. That's where I'm at, Washington State. It's 1-ish. See, I could just look on the computer. Yeah, it's 10 after 1 right now here. So we're back to that point, my little friends. We're back to that point where Will has shown you the things. And I did so with diligence, so that you would know. But I'm still here. I'm still here. Kind of. No, I'm here. I'm here. I'm really here. That's the beauty of all of this, is that I'm really here. Things have slowed down. Things are getting to that point. I still have to find myself another zone to call my own. But at the very least, I'm not freaking out about things. Which is, better than bad. And that's what we aim for. We aim for better than bad. We don't aim for perfect. Because that would be silly. That's not true. I do aim for perfection in several different ways. But you can't always achieve perfection. And when it comes down to it, you have to remember that everything that you do is as good as you can do it. And anybody who's trying to get you to do things better than you could ever possibly do them is probably not your friend and probably isn't very kind. So ha 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 ha. Who was he making fun of, they're thinking? Just whoever. It doesn't. Or whomever, if you please. So what you may notice about this arena is that you only see the inside of the arena. You don't see the outside, right? And so part of the campaign setting flavor of the Dream Arena is the marketplace and the pseudo community that has built itself up around the outside of this massive arena in the Dimension of Dreams, or Nightmares, however you choose to perceive it. So I haven't done that part, and I'm not entirely sure I want to do that part. I do know that if I was going to create a map of something that is inherently very difficult to map because it's always changing, I was thinking of recreating the city of Katapesh from the Paizo campaign setting, from the nation of the same name, because the capital city has the name of the country, Katapesh. I would use the map of that city to create the map of what's called the Tarnished Souk. No, that's not true. That's just the storefronts. The shop zone is called the Tarnished Souk. I forget what they call the whole thing in general. In any case, those are based on the products by Wright Publishing called Coliseum Morpheon and Faces of the Tarnished Souk. Souk. S-O-U-K. Souk. Yeah. And so, thus, therefore. That's going to happen a lot, I think. I've been doing that a lot lately. So, thus, therefore, so as, heretofore, and such, thus that there was the things. It happens quite often, actually. So, yeah. So, there's an arena that is working. It's been working for way too long, in fact. Just that stuff there in the podium, way too long. It took me way too long to get to finish to this point. We're also listening to copyright-free music, which essentially means just whatever they play, which actually isn't all that bad. It's not terrible. Plus, they were playing advertisements before on this, but it doesn't seem to be doing it to me now, and I'm quite thankful for that, because I was getting really quite frustrated and tired of hearing them. Me with my very, very strong opinions on advertising and marketing. Why? Because evil. Filled with evil. So that's the thought. That's what I'm thinking about at night when it's late and I've been listening to Hyper RPG and I told Rai Rai about the idea with the blender concept and he said, "Oh, do it on your own stream. You could." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I could, and I could, and it's true. I could do it on this stream." The thing is I would really love to get other artists involved, and I think honestly cooperative creativity like that is best done when it's organized under an umbrella, and that's what Hyper RPG is, a big lovely umbrella. So that's my thought, that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. At least I think I am. I like it. It would not be the first time. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, wow, this guy's tired. Why is he up doing these things? Because this is what I do. If I didn't have the video on right now, I'd be doing the same thing, sitting here talking to myself. So this is the beauty of this, is I get to share in me talking to myself with you. Yay. Oh yeah, it sounds so much more crazy and fun. It is. It is. Just believe it. Just believe it. Trust me, it's not worth questioning. Yeah. So, it's late. So that's why. So, I don't think I'm going to work on the arena stuff right now, because technically, I don't want to actually work on this one on stream. I want to finish this one up and get it done and put it out and feel better about it. You know what I'll do? I'll show you something. I'll show you something. It's for the same thing. It's for the adventure that I want to put together and publish in. It's a really high level adventure, which is why it's taken so long, and I'm not really rushing it because I'm like, whatever. I'm not rushing anything. I'm not rushing anything at this point. I'm so sick of everything blowing up in my face. Alright, so this is a wonderful, lovely... Oh, you know what? I'm showing you things and I'm in the wrong setup. Okay, so this was something that I worked on, and essentially it's finished. Yeah, it's essentially finished. I'm not worried about this. This doesn't need to go any further. So, this is Utopia and Underfoot. Underfoot, if anybody's like, Underfoot is the name that I came up with for what would be Norgorber's realm in the Outer Planes. Norgorber's realm is basically like the dungeons and the prison pits below the city of Axis, or Utopia. And so Utopia is the generic name that you can use for open game content. Axis is the actual intellectual property rights name by Paizo. And Norgorber's realm is clearly and obviously intellectual property. So I decided to call Norgorber's realm Underfoot because I think that works, and I think it sounds really good, and I don't really care what you think. So ha ha ha. And I did another version of that one because it's in the Outer Planes, and I decided that it needed to be like that so that you could totally get a sense of things. It was a terrible setup, and I know that. It was a terrible setup, and I know that. But so yeah, so I worked on that too, and in all reality, it's pretty much done. I mean, there's not much else that I really need to do to it. There's nothing else that I need to do to it, honestly. Wow, I'm really surprised at how big this is. But that's a good thing, I guess. So the other thing is the statue of Atlas that I included, which I made another side image for it. because I decided that was necessary. Because it's utopia. The place where all civilization is made to be perfect forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I had a lot of fun with it. Plus I enjoyed doing it. Plus I'm showing you like super close-ups. People would never see this. And people would be like, but what about those guidelines and grid lines and everything? What? Take it off there. I want to see it the regular way. No. Yeah, so I put a good deal of time and effort into making this really interesting. I think it worked out pretty well. I'm gonna shut this one down. And so we'll go back to horror maps. And I think I'm gonna, I don't know, I don't want to just shut it down just because I'm not actually working. I mean, half the fun of this is that we just hang out. And by we, I mean myself talking into the video. But that's alright. It's not a problem. If anything, it's quite cathartic. Think of it as sort of a purgative for my emotions. Which I have to admit have been pretty crazy lately. So I had an insurance, prescription insurance issue thing that came up where my prescription wasn't getting paid for by my insurance. It was really weird and I couldn't figure out why it was happening. But apparently something got situated and worked out because I didn't have to pay for this last set of meds, which were desperately needed because my anxiety was going pretty crazy. So we got that taken care of. And I say we, I don't know who did, but it was taken care of for me. So that's the moral of the story. Wow, we've done this for an hour and 23-ish minutes already. That's kind of exciting. It's kind of sad that I can sit and blabber to myself for an hour and 20 minutes without getting almost anything done. But it's not really all that surprising. That's how procrastination and confusion work. I'm not actually that bad at procrastinating these days. Well, oh, never mind. I'll just stop. I'll just stop right there. But I'm excited to work on these more and more. I would love to have something working towards an actual project goal for 3D stuff. I really would. So I was thinking, okay, what would I do if I was going to do a Blender show? What would I do? How would I start it? How would I, set things up so that it was actually interesting? And so I would like to have multiple people, so myself and maybe one or two other artists, preferably at least two other artists, people who are familiar with art from, maybe a more traditional perspective, but then give them drawing tablets and get things set up where we are, where you can see what's happening on our screen, and each of us use whatever we're most comfortable with, but using Blender to create some 3D stuff, some set up whatever, anything. I mean, to be honest, when you set up something to be prepared for animation, I think that's the best way to put your ideas together into something that can actually be used. And even if you don't fully animate everything and do a movie or whatever, just setting it up and getting it ready for that. You could even take some stills of just image stills of it and get something decent. So there's some really big slugs out here in Washington State, really, really, really big slugs, seriously, yay-ish long. Okay, slugs. Okay, massive, massive slugs out here. And so I was like, oh, well, if we did a scene where each of us do one 3D asset that we work on and make, maybe one really detailed one, or as many as we can make in a short period of time, one 3D model, and then hand it off to the next artist, and we each trade out. and then like add our own idea to whatever it is that they were just working on and create 3D assets. So I was thinking like, okay, I could do a slug, and April can do some mushrooms, and Steph can do some stones and grass and plants and things, right? Like nature stuff. And then we hand each of our files off to one another at the end of that, and then add to it, or take the objects that they have made and maybe sculpt them or apply textures to them or whatever, and then like set like a timer up so that each of these stages we only have so much time, so we're not just working on it forever and ever and ever, but that we actually kind of have a little bit of a time limit, a little bit of a deadline on us to keep it moving ahead. That's my thought. I mean, you don't want to just do the same thing that anybody else would be doing in that situation. You want to do something that's a little more fun and exciting. And so that's what I was thinking, is like making a timer, having a timer set up so that when you do the first little bit, you're going to spend like 5 minutes on this, and then you hand off the files, and then you have 5 to 10 minutes to do this, and then hand off the files again, and then you have 10 to 15 minutes to do this. And then by that point, when everybody has been working on something and you hand these assets off to one another, you're going to get kind of a sense of like, what are they working on? What kind of ideas are they contributing to this scene, right? Because that's what I was thinking, is like the mushrooms and the maybe make terrain. Like, okay, the person who has the slugs is probably going to have to do some terrain and some things. And so in all reality, any of these could be something that where, okay, you're going to do stones and grass. Okay, you're going to do land and some mushrooms. Okay, but the idea is that everybody has something that they start with, and then you hand that, like when the timer goes off, you wrap it up, save it, and then hand that file off. Okay, because you can save these. It's called a dot blend file, and it's literally the word blend, dot blend. And so you could save what you're working on as a blend file and then hand it off, and the person can open that file in Blender and work on exactly what it was that you were working on. And so they can texturize your model object, or they could apply a bone, a skeleton, what do they call it? An armature, yes. So like the bones of essentially what is a skeleton that's animating the thing could be part of that process, and so you make the bones to animate this slug, and okay, so these mushrooms are just going to be kind of static and they're just going to hang out. Maybe this mushroom over here is animated, so maybe it's going to bounce around or whatever. And then like with stones and grass, the stones aren't going to move, but maybe the grass is animated or set up with the physics in such a way where if as the wind slowly blows through, that it kind of sways the grass or whatever. So my point is that if you have multiple artists working on something like that in a cooperative way, and I think it would work really well in a studio where you're sitting there on hand, you can have an actual conversation while you're doing these things. And if you get kind of tripped up, you have people there that are working in the same thing that you're working in to be able to say, I have no idea what I'm doing. How do I do this? And then the other people can tell you, even though it's going to be counting towards your time, can kind of tell you, like, do this, and then try this, and if that doesn't work, try this, or whatever. And with Blender, there's so many different ways to do things. There's so many different routes that you can take to accomplish the same task. And so I feel like it would be a really good setup and a really good software environment for some really cool creative kind of things where we just make stuff up, and we're going to naturally get better over time. But when we start, it's going to be rough, and it'll be kind of fun because we'll look back on those things like, oh my gosh, look at how terrible they were. But who cares? I mean, that's kind of the whole point of being an artist, is that at some point you get past the, oh, I'm not very good at this stage, and you just start making stuff, because you're only going to get good you're going to get better by doing it. The only reason I was thinking about that is because the other day on watching paint dry, which Viking Lass April hosts, she had Steph on as her special guest, and they were talking about doing digital work and using drawing tablets and things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would totally love to have a show with these too, because they're like wonderfully creative. I was like, man, I would really love to have a show where we sit and do asset creation for digital media and like make things and put them together into something. And I especially with what I've seen people do with Blender with 3D, it's like if you can get a team of people to just come up with an idea, it doesn't even matter what it is, it doesn't even have to be good. If you can get a team of people to come up with an idea and then work toward that, you can make some really wonderful stuff. I mean, you think it's going to be ridiculous or worthless or whatever, but more often than not, you make something that actually impresses yourself. So, I've been working with Blender, just basically watching a whole bunch of tutorials. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I keep telling myself I work with Blender. No, I can open it and I can do the things that they do. It's just that it's hard to tell yourself that you're any good at something that's so complicated. It's hard. It's hard to tell yourself that you can do this, but you can. I can. You can. We can. And so, thus, therefore, so as, heretofore, that was explained in the preface. What preface? There was a preface? Did I miss the prologue part of this episode? I did. I missed the prologue. Sorry. Yes, he's a slight bit mad. It's okay. It's fine. And so, that was the last sip of coffee. So should that be the determining factor of what ends this stream? No, of course that's not the determining factor, because I can always get more coffee. So what I think I'm going to do before the next time I stream more content creation like this, is I'm going to set this cargo hold of a spaceship map. I'm going to set that one up so that I've got a side perspective for the elevation, the topology of this map, because it's a little more complicated than. I mean, even I'm having a tough time remembering like exactly what thing is at what level. So once I get that all worked out and have that set up in Vector, I will then stream the next portion of that map process, where I take it into Photoshop and I do some things with it there. And then also, because it's going to be set up for 3D, I will import those as reference photos to use in Blender to create a 3D environment, using those elevations that that's what I was setting up there on the side, because you've got the top-down view, and from that, I'm going to take those shapes and apply where they end side to side and where they're placed top to bottom, because there's a lot going on there with elevation. That was kind of the whole point, was when I was thinking about it, it was like I want something that's really tall, something that has at least 2 levels plus the pit. And so I think I ended up with 3 levels plus a pit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Technically, okay, 1 metal grating, probably a second metal grating, floor, pit. Okay, so there's going to be at least 4 floors plus the pit, which is considered part of the subflooring, the actual cargo hold. And then, as part of that, along the walls, what would normally be considered doors is going to be fully functional machinery that is meant to be a lift to raise and lower things in that cargo hold area. And so that's what, when it looks like there's so many doors, like a ton of doors on both sides, those are actually going to be more like hangar doors and machinery. Like the really wide ones off to the right are going to be primarily machinery for lifting things in that cargo hold. So that's the plan for that. It's going to be really sci-fi. It's going to be very futuristic. A little bit clean, a little bit grunge. Probably more grunge than clean, because it does have to look a little bit dark and steamy and things like that. I also should probably go and get an actual reference photo of that scene from Alien where he falls into the cargo hold and has the face hugger jump up onto his face, because that's actually what I've been thinking about when I think about this. The other scene from that movie that would inspire me is when they're when they've gone back up to the Sulaco and they're in like the hangar. What's his name? I can't think of his name, but the character that plays like the helper kind of crew person who's like really reluctant to be involved, and he's hanging out in the hangar, and all the chains are hanging down from the top, and there's waters dripping down and everything. That scene on the inside, that kind of inspires me too for how this should feel when it's done. So that's why that's happening. And I do have some reference images for both the Mindscape and the Alien Planet already chosen and picked out. I'll compile those into single images and place them as image references when I split all of these into separate files, because I think that's the smartest way to create all of this stuff. If I was to try and create it all in one single AI file like this, it would take a long time to save and do things, and it's just going to eat up processor memory stuff. So the goal is to split this into separate documents first, and I'll edit those shapes over there on the side to show the elevations, and then when those are split into separate documents and when that portion is complete, I will move on to those other maps, and I will have reference images for the Mindscape and for the Alien Planet. I don't yet have references for the Vampire Theater Hall or the Cemetery, mostly because I feel like I can create something that doesn't necessarily have to be like anything else, and I kind of already know what I want in my mind. So even though references maybe could help, like in the case of the Alien Planet, I definitely did. I was like, well, I was inspired by No Man's Sky, so to make colors, to make weird colored things. That was kind of my goal. I was seeing all these really weird atmospheric and ground colors and plant colors and things. I was like, wow, okay, they're so weird and bizarre, and they're really inspiring me to make like an alien world where everything is just so colorful. So that's going to be how that map is dealt with. And then the Vampire Theater Hall, I'm inspired by that scene in Interview with the Vampire where they're in a theater hall for vampires. But am I going to make it look like that vampire hall? No. It's not going to look exactly like that. And I do know the layout of this one, so even the elevation version for this. So I feel like using that as a reference is not going to get me. It's not going to do me a lot of good when the only thing I could really get from that would be like colors for the flooring, and I'm not going to know what I want for that until after I set it up for 3D if I set it up for 3D. Whereas I feel like if I just work in this as is without a reference, I can make something pretty darn decent, and uh, and then I can always Photoshop. And if I want to make it in 3D, I can because I already know the layout, and I've got a pretty good sense of where everything is in here. Also, I have to use the restroom, so for the time being, I'm going to take a short break, and I'll be back. I'm not going to turn the mic off, and so you will hear things, because that's how things work. everybody. Oh, I sure wish I could make sure that I had people here so I could talk and listen to people's stories and maybe tell some on my own, but nobody at all. I'm so sad. Just kidding. Not all that sad at all. I'll be alright. It's the middle of the night anyways. This is what happens. But the other reason I do this, I mean, aside from the fact that I'm awake at really bizarre hours, is because of all the people on the other side of the planet that are probably bored when the United States is like, oh, well, we're tired. Because, you know, that. A part of me just feels like putting on some Stargate or a movie and just hanging out. Oh, silly. That's not the one I wanted. Wow. I mean, part of me just kind of wants to chill and maybe chit chat with some people, but part of the deal is that because it's so late, yeah, I don't know. And that's half the problem is when you decide to stream in the middle of the night, you kind of have to know that going into it that you're probably not going to have many people watching you, and you might not have a lot of people around to actually chit chat with. Honestly, it doesn't matter one way or the other. I'm really glad I got to do this tonight. I think half the problem is when you get yourself hyped up to do a live stream is you end up making yourself nervous to do something that you actually really enjoy. So it's like you kind of have to find a way to just let that part go. Because once you get past that and you're like doing it, especially with something like this that's like so natural for me, it's just so much more comforting because then you know that no matter what, you've shared what you loved with people that may or may not benefit. It doesn't really matter one way or the other, though. I mean, the whole point is that we're doing something. This is what I've chosen to do, to share myself through this. Probably not doing the greatest job, but you know what? Too fucking bad. I do have the Discord that is working, and I am logged on right now. So if anyone does want to do voice chat on Discord, let me know, and I can send you the link. I can even put it in the chat, which I mean, it's the middle of the night, and it wouldn't really matter. So whatever. In any case, if you are the sort of person who is awake at these times of night, so to speak, ish, because it is night, It's daytime somewhere though. Then maybe this is the time to do the things. So the other thing that I like to do is online role-playing games. I play Pathfinder. I mean, I've mentioned this 1,000 times, but in case this is the first time you've ever seen this, I really love Pathfinder role-playing game, and that's what all what these maps are for, is actually to create encounter maps, environments that you could use in a Pathfinder role-playing game scenario. And so I do have some game tables set up on Roll20.net that I do occasionally like to get on and play. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to organize those games. Adults with real life. I mean, that's just how it works. It's like, man, when we were kids, we could do anything and we had time. Nowadays, it's like, to get people to get free time and then to get the same free time as everybody else in the group so that we can regularly meet at the same time. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And then, stuff pops up, jumps up, and completely derails you. And the only thing you really want to do is play a game with your friends. I mean, it's not really asking too much. Apparently so. But in any case, so I have one table that I think is going to be sort of the backbone of this live stream thing. Serpent Skull is the adventure path name, and I've decided it's going to be Ultimate Serpent Skull. It's going to be everything that we can make Serpent Skull into, even if it wasn't intended to be that. And there's probably already people going, what? Why is that required? Because the necessity is there and you just didn't realize it yet. I think I am. I think I'm just a little too tired to be doing this because I want to work on this stuff, but I'm looking at it going, I have to split things. I have to get those photo references put together and put into one image piece and then place them, and so that's more work, and I don't really want to do that right now on this. I mean, I could. There's nothing preventing it. All this, if you all just want to sit and keep watching, great. I'm going to figure out what I can do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shut the chat down here on the screen for a minute. Also over here, because it's not necessary. And then give me a minute to figure out what all we have going on over here. Oh yeah, because we actually have, this is why we have music, is because we have Twitch playing currently. So I'm gonna mute that. And we're gonna see if anybody is watching me right now. I'm watching you as much as you're watching me. So we're gonna see if anybody's watching me right now. It's gonna play an ad. Oh god, I hope it doesn't play the sound for the ad. I do not want to see it. Wait, what? Okay. So, so it's just me. Just me, my friends. Just me. That's okay. I'm okay with that. So, that's not a problem. That's kind of what I was figuring, is that it's just me talking to the camera. My camera. Hi. I'm glad that we're friends. You're so nice. It's not a problem, actually. not a problem. So I'm going to yeah, I'm just gonna let that play, and I'm gonna let that be the sound. So, I'm also gonna log off of the Discord, because there's no need to be connected to something that's just pulling down my ability. So I would love to chit chat with people. So in general, if you like what you're watching here, and if you want to chit chat with me at these times, I really like using the Discord for voice chat. I ditched Skype a good long time ago and have not looked back. So that's that. That's my thing about that. So that's where we're at, guys and gals, guys and gals, and all of those in between, or those who have yet to make up their minds about such things. Just whatever. It doesn't. It's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So, okay. So, what should I work on? Should I work on something? Technically, the answer is yes. I'd love to know what people would do with the ideas I've come up with here. Like, what would you do if you had done this differently? Like, what kind of horror themed maps would you have chosen? What's your favorite horror movie or horror story? And would you make an encounter map that was themed for that? Maybe a little bit differently. Heck, if you make an encounter map and you use this grid layout method that I've shown you, which is, I know it's kind of weird when it's like, oh, but I don't use Illustrator. So there's an open source version. It's made by the same people that make GIMP. Well, I say that, that's probably not true. You can get it from the same zone that you get GIMP, and I think it's called Inkscape. Ink something, I-N-K. I think it's Inkscape. In any case, it's an open source vector art software. I don't like it because I like Adobe software. I can't help it. I'm spoiled, okay? I'm fucking spoiled. So I really like Adobe Illustrator. AI. Oh no, AI is taking over the world. I like it because I really like the crisp vector art shapes. Those exact shapes also work really well to when you take them and import them as your starting shapes for a raster image, like one you would create in Photoshop. So that will be sort of the second part of all of this, is that the images here, because these are vector graphics, after they are put together into Photoshop files, I will digitally paint. I say paint. So if you ever hear me say I'm going to paint something on the computer, I'm going to digitally paint it using my drawing tablet. And I'm going to texturize it when I paint on it. And so I can do that in Photoshop. And then with all of these, I'm setting them up so that they're prepared to be able to be used for layout for 3D stuff. Because all of these have elevation and topology to them, or things that are, that stand out from the map itself. So they're all pretty much set up for 3D in terms of their theme and their concept anyways. And so if I pull them into Blender and make 3D out of them, which I hope and plan to do at least 2 of them in that exact thing. And we're gonna see just how detailed this Mindscape thing ends up getting. We'll see. It could be really interesting. I'm hoping it'll look really nice. And even if it looks, half decent, most people that I know are gonna be like, oh, whoa, you made that, that's so crazy. But like, yeah, I did. Top to bottom, actually. Ha 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 ha. I'm actually not that big of a dick. It's just that, some people like think things are so impossible. No, they're not. You just need to know the right things, and then you need a little bit of practice. And if you know what you're doing enough to get that accomplished, you too can have awesome and amazing things. It's really not that tough. You have to be motivated to want to do it. You have to have access to the resources that you need. So in this case, if I didn't have access to Adobe Illustrator, I would be screwed. And this is kind of one of the reasons I really wish that all of this design software would be made free and open source, because it's really nice that this company puts this effort into redeveloping this software and re-releasing them as new versions. But if I had to choose between that and having access to it by it being open source so that anybody could work on it and make it better, I have to be honest, I would rather have the open source. Honestly, but the other side of that is the open source software that's out there already is not really all that great, in my opinion. It will do this same thing. It will do the things that are necessary, but then there's other things that it won't do. All these cool little add-ins that we have in Illustrator, it doesn't do, and I'm used to them. I'm spoiled. I'm used to them. I love Illustrator. To be entirely honest, Adobe Illustrator is one of my favorite pieces of software. I kind of think that I like it more than I like Photoshop, only because Photoshop is difficult for me in some ways, and because I don't really use Photoshop to its full potential. And I think that's probably a common theme among users is, holy monkeys, this software can do a lot of stuff. I'm probably not using it to its full potential. And I say that's probably the case with me. I know that's the case with me. I could be using it for all sorts of amazing things and doing it even better than I'm doing it now. But I am a student. Forever and ever and ever, I am a student of things. And now I'm contemplating that particular philosophy. So A, do you like these maps? And B, what would you do? Like, what would you encourage me to do? Or what would you do? And if you do something, like, totally, you should share that, because I think it would be fun to see what other people do after watching these little, and I say they're sort of tutorial videos, they're really not. I mean, this was never intended to be a tutorial stream. It was intended to be I'm gonna do this kind of stuff and I'll teach you some of the ins and outs as I do it, but really it's about doing it and the community that will naturally build from that action, from that behavior. I say that this community has yet to naturally build, but that's okay. We know that it works. You just have to have the right stuff and also be very persistent and very diligent, which I have not been. I could have been doing a lot more in the meantime, but things have been kind of rough. I was staying somewhere earlier and I was having some tumultuous times. But now I'm staying in a new place, and so things are working out for the moment, and at the very least I'm in a situation where I have a really nice screen over here so that I have two screens, and the two screen thing is almost a necessity in order to do this streaming thing, because on one screen it's like I'm constantly having OBS, Open Broadcaster Software, I'm constantly having that pop up and down, and so you get the feedback video loop of doom, the corridor that never ends. And yeah, I don't know, that frustrates me. I don't like that. It's very unprofessional. Very unprofessional. That's the other thing that's very professional of me, is that I will just do those things. So yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say about this in preparation for what I'm going to be doing between now and the next time stream. I guess I could split it apart on the stream. There's nothing preventing me. It's just that it's late and I don't want to keep blabbering. But at the same time, you know what, let's get rid of we're gonna get rid of the chat, okay, because no one has been chatting. If you do chat, I'll come back to it. Maybe. We'll get rid of the chat. We're gonna get rid of the chat. We'll come back to it. But, I'm gonna go look at Twitter. Because I did a notification before I popped on here to do this stream. Okay. Nothing happened with that, but that's all right. Oh man. So yeah, things have been really kind of rough. I mean, they're stabilizing slowly but surely. I need to, part of what it is that I need to do is I need to get into that next stage where I start looking for my own place. And that's the thing that's been holding me back from doing more stream stuff, is just, you know, I don't want to focus on this and have a whole bunch of people be angry at me that I'm not, you know, doing more to find my own independent zone where maybe I could set a studio up like this in my own apartment. And that would be great and wonderful, but that's not always that easy. But for whatever reason, everybody wants to believe that, you know, everything is possible, so go out there and do it, because you must be doing something wrong if you haven't accomplished that yet. No. No, I've done pretty much everything I can do, and then some. And even then, It's called getting screwed over occasionally. And it's not fun. It's not fun. But, I don't know. I think that's it. I think I'm gonna stop it there. It is 10 after 2 in the morning. It is definitely over 2 hours that I've been streaming now and just kind of blabbering. I need to be doing it a lot more. And I know that. I need to be doing this a lot more, and I need to be more productive about all of this. Because even though I'm making all this stuff for free and nobody's paying me, the idea is that I need to be working on things like this. You know, that it's so frustrating when you know that you're really good at something, but the world does not yet demand your goods, right? I mean, it's like, you know that it could be in demand. You just need the right situation, the right atmosphere, the right market, the right time. You know, it's all about time and luck and circumstances. I say luck, it's not really about luck so much as, you know, the timing of things. If you can put something out that's, so for example, let's say that I had done a lot more work on the Nimian Beastland, my campaign setting for Crew of Hippocrates. Let's say I had done more work on that leading up to the release of the movie Avatar, which has very, very, very similar themes. I could have been doing maybe a little bit more sales, and things maybe would have changed. But for me, the focus always has to be on doing things that are at the right time for me. And it's been really tough to figure out what that is, because I'm constantly making plans for stuff and then having everything fall apart. Like, seriously, way too often. Way too often. So that's half of why I'm doing this. Just because I've got a lot on my mind. I have been working on something for Hyper RPG. They are wonderful. I'm really glad that they have an open studio as they do Monday through Thursday. They do not have an open studio on Friday. Yeah, I really like what they're doing, honestly, and I'm not just saying that. I think that they're pushing really hard to make something amazing and phenomenal, and it's not easy. I mean, when you're setting new standards and new boundaries, it's never easy. But I think that what they're doing is really exciting. I think it's a really, really, really good thing. So I've been helping them. I wish I could say more. I want to know when Rai says things. But also, along with that, you know what, guys and gals? This is just sad. This is absolutely the saddest thing of all. Is that this whole time, oh my gosh, this whole time, I am a traitor. I am a traitor of the highest sort. Oh, here it is. The whole time, no, I had it on the whole time. You never knew. You never knew. Oh, yeah. Hashtag number ride, motherfuckers. Hashtag number ride. Hashtag number fan. Woo! I usually like to have this over here so that when I get the urge to jump on and do the streaming thing, I can immediately flash like, yeah, hashtag number ride. Woo! But I may have slipped a little bit. I may have underestimated my forgetfulness superpower. and so, but now here it is, binding me to this reality that we are here to experience. I'm having some discussions about that earlier too. I won't go into that part because that's a much deeper conversation that's necessary to have with more than one person, especially when I'm the one person that I'm having a conversation with. So I would say that I love you, but since the you involved in that statement is I will instead say have a wonderful evening, and if you're seeing this after it's been posted as a video on demand, VOD, then welcome to Zydo Raven, Zedo Raven, Zido Raven, Jida Raven, however you want to say it. Doesn't really matter, it's not a real word. So that's it. I mean, that's it for me. Really wish that I had some people here because I really like asking questions and hearing what other people have on their minds, because it usually gets me started up on something rather than just like, stuff. But that's okay, because you might watch this on demand later, or you might find out about this 10 years from now. And in either case, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, so that's what I was working on. I'll jump over there one more time, just so I can show you. That's a... Here, let's get rid of my ugly face. Oh, ugly face! So, that's what I've been working on. Down in the lower right-hand corner, I did two shapes there. It's because the one shape is going to get turned into the side view for the elevation of the different floors that are involved in that particular scene, and so that's going to happen. That is going to happen, and I'm going to do that in between streams, just because it's going to make it a lot easier for me. And I'll still end up having the same stuff to be able to show you. It's just that it'll be split into separate files. And then what I plan to do is to release all of these files once I've got them completed, so that people can use them and do the things with them that they would like to do. I think that's important. I mean, me personally, that's my feeling, is that maybe somebody wants to use these, so maybe I should let them to make new ideas. I think that's important. Anyways, so enough of those copyright. It's called No Copyright Sounds. Okay, so twitch.tv/no copyright sounds. That's who's been doing our soundtrack tonight. That's been playing in the background this whole time. I really appreciate if you've watched this, even if it's on demand later. All of these videos that I do here on Twitch, I put over on the YouTube, which is YouTube/user/the Zedo Raven. It's the Zedo Raven, THE, and then Zedo Raven, XIDORAVEN. I say Zedo Raven, some people say Zydo Raven. You can say whatever, it's not going to offend me. It's not a real word. So, Raven, people know how to say Raven. So if you can say Zedo or Zydo or Zido or Jida or or whatever, Raven, that's okay. I'm okay with that. Raven. There now, you know a new way of the things. Alright, so I'm going to stop it there. Thanks so much for being you. And I hope to do a lot more of this really soon. Also, if you're from HyperRPG and you're watching this, let's keep doing this. Let's do this. Like I've got a ton of creative ideas that I just need an outlet for it. And I'd love to just do it on stream. I could come up to the studio, or I could port the video in. I mean, I'm gonna do this kind of streaming stuff when I can, anyways. And if you've been watching and you're not from HyperRPG, and if you've maybe never heard of them before, then maybe you might want to go over and check out twitch.tv/hyperrpg, Hyper, Hyper RPG, all one word. Check them out because they're pretty amazing, and recommend that we start a digital media 3D asset creation kind of show where we make stuff like this and then turn it into 3D stuff in Blender, because I think that would be an excellent idea. And also, if you're involved in the Blender community, which is a vast and incredibly diverse graphics design community, hit me up, because I think that the more people that we have interested in this, the better. Not just because of popularity, but because you tend to get a lot of different perspectives of creative people, people who design things of all different sorts, that can really put forward some really cool perspectives that when we start actually making things, it will cause us to take directions that I think would be better overall. It's called cooperation. It's called cooperation and teamwork and cooperative design. That's kind of the whole theme of the Hyper RPG show lineup, is that it's all about community and interactivity and cooperative storytelling, and so I think that we should do that with 3D. And I think that it would be fun to do it with more than just me, because as much as I can blabber to a video camera and talk about random things that are up on my digital screen, that's just not the same as having a group of people making things potentially in a timed, semi-competitive fashion, which could be quite exciting. At least in my opinion. Anyways, I guess that's it. It's 2:20. We've been going for a good long while. I'm going to log off, and I'm going to say farewell and good evening, and see you on the other side.